Hello guys! So with all the information we've gotten the past few weeks, and with Dragon Age Veilguard's release being only a few months away, I think now would be a great time to take a closer look at the ones we'll be traveling with when we return to the wonderful world of Thedas this fall. Our companions. Some of them we've met before, and others we know almost nothing about, but in this video I'm going to tell you everything there is to know about our new friends. Or perhaps rivals? So that you are all caught up when you hit that new game button. So grab yourself a nice white choc mocha, it's literally what I'm drinking right now, and let's jump straight in. Please note that this video contains spoilers for the Dragon Age novel Tevinter Nights and the Dragon Age comic The Missing. Harding. This dwarven scout has a big heart, a positive outlook, and a ready bow, as well as unexpected magical powers. So Scout Lace Harding is someone we know from Dragon Age Inquisition and the comic The Missing. She was born just outside of Redcliffe in the Ferelden hinterlands and enjoyed exploring the hinterlands hills while helping her elderly neighbor tend to her sheep. When the Inquisition arrived in Redcliffe, Harding volunteered to guide their forces and was eventually recruited by Officer Charter, who was impressed by her skill. She ended up serving the Inquisition as their lead scout, and would always be there when the Inquisitor entered a new area, and give them a quick rundown of the situation and what they could expect. If she was not out in the field, she could often be found near the Herald's Rest Tavern in Skyhold. As the Inquisition's lead scout, she helped the Inquisitor defeat Corypheus once and for all. After finding out about Solas's plans to destroy the world as we know it, and I'm massively oversimplifying it, but I don't really want to get into that because this video isn't about that, she continued to work for the Inquisitor, whether the organization disbanded or not, in order to find a way to stop Solas. While she could be flirted with by her Inquisitor, she did not have a full, proper romance arc like the other romance options had. It was sort of addressed in the spa day conversation with Vivienne and Trespasser if the Inquisitor had flirted with Harding and didn't romance anyone else, but that's about it. In the Missing comic, Harding travels with Varric as they are looking for Solas. Their search leads them to several locations: the deep roads near Marna's Pell, Byrentium, the Arlethan Forest, and Minrathous. During their journey, they meet a few people that we will likely see or hear from in the next game. Grey Wardens Efka Ivo and Antoine, Antivan Crows Andratea Cantori and Viago de Riva, Veil Jumpers Strife and Erilyn, and of course Neve Gallus, who we know will be another one of our companions, but we'll talk about her in a bit. So Harding is a dwarven rogue, and the only one not representing one of the factions that we can choose as a background for our rook. What's really interesting and surprising, or maybe not surprising at all looking at the state of the world with the Veil seemingly falling apart and all, is how she has a bit of magic now. There are a few theories about how she could have possibly gotten the magic, but one of them I've seen people talk about a lot is that she might get it from Solas's dagger, which he used in his ritual to take down the Veil. I have yet to do my in-depth breakdown of the gameplay review. I know I'm very late, so I'll talk about the how and why whenever I do that video, but in short, the theory is she gets it after a confrontation with Solas. However, as I was taking another look at the gameplay with my friend Lambo, we noticed that sometimes when Harding fires an arrow from her bow, we can see this white glow around it. Now, this might be nothing and it might just be a fancy effect from a certain ability, but if we take a look at her tarot card, we can actually see the exact same thing. A glowing white arrow with white branches and leaves around it. Since this is so prominent in her tarot card, I feel like it has to be significant. And this depicting the strange magical ability that Harding now possesses seems like a pretty good possibility to me. But if this is indeed depicting the magic, does this mean that what we see here is Harding using that magic? Because if that's the case, that means she already has the magic before the confrontation with Solas. Looking at another shot, here we see Harding ready to fire an arrow. And while not white, the tip of the arrow is glowing, again hinting that she potentially uses her magic through bow and arrow. Of course I could be way off, but this was just an observation I had. I gotta say though, I'm happy they went with the tarot card style art again, cause I absolutely love it, and I'm assuming they'll be using these for the character selection screen again. As a side note, when looking at the tarot cards for this video, I'm just looking at the art and pointing out the things that stand out to me, things that I think could hint at something. I don't know shit about tarot cards, and I don't know if these are based upon actual tarot cards like the ones in Inquisition, so I'm not trying to find the meaning behind the tarot card itself, just the art and what is depicted, so just keep that in mind. Neve, a cynic fighting for a better future, both as a private detective and a member of Tevinter's rebellious Shadow Dragons. We know Neve from the Tevinter Night story The Streets of Minrathous, and the comic The Missing. We don't really know anything about her past yet, but we know that she is a detective in Minrathous and that she has a good reputation as a private investigator as mentioned in the Tevinter Night story half up front. In the Streets of Minrathous, Neve works with the Templars on an investigation regarding a few murdered Venatori cultists. She learns that the Venatori plan on freeing a powerful demon sealed under Minrathous, said to be so powerful only a god could summon it. Luckily, with the help of the Templars, Neve manages to prevent the Venatori from completing the ritual, and while the demon is not defeated, it is sealed once more, for now. In The Missing, Neve meets up with Varric and Harding during their quest to find Solus. They learn that Solus has been stealing artifacts from the Venatori and has freed some of their elven slaves. When they find out that the Venatori are planning on killing the escaped slaves in order to get revenge on Solus, the group decides to help them and stop the ambush. This is also where we get introduced to the group called the Shadow Dragons, an organization that helps former slaves across the winter. So Neve Gallus is a human mage with ice powers and a very cool looking prosthetic leg of dwarven make. And I really hope we're going to find out who made it for her and how she lost her leg. She's the one that will be representing the Shadow Dragons in the game, and from the gameplay reveal we have learned that she is one of the first companions we meet. If you want to know more about the Shadow Dragons or any of the other factions, definitely check out my previous video, as that one is all about the factions. Together with the Shadow Dragons, Neve fights back against the oppressive regime that has taken over the city of Minrathous, because she believes that there is still some good left in the world, and because she wants to be there for the ones that need it most. She is the voice of the streets and the voice of the common people. If we take a look at Neve's tarot card, we can see a few interesting things. Apart from Neve looking absolutely fabulous, the thing that grabbed my attention was the ominous shadow in the background. The figure seems to be pretty tall and is carrying a staff. When I look at the way this character is being depicted, being an ominous shadowy figure looming over Neve with very sharp, pointy features, makes me think that this is not a very nice guy, and probably someone from Neve's past. Perhaps another Magister or Venatori? I mean, the Shadow Dragons do fight evil Magisters after all. Something I just can't ignore though is that the figure's features also kind of remind me of Corypheus and the Architect. I mean, it's obvious sharp and pointy is part of the Tevinter style and fashion, so it could be anyone from Tevinter. But this silhouette is quite similar to that of Cory and the Architect, with the thin waist and the incredibly long arms and hands that look more like claws. And as I said, it also seems to be pretty tall. Cory and Archie were also pretty tall. This might be nothing, but I hope this means we'll see either the Architect again or perhaps another one of the ancient Magisters that broke into the Golden City. Another detail that stood out to me is that the magical glowy part of Neve's staff lines up perfectly with the figure's chest, where its heart would be, assuming it has one. It's more in the middle of the figure's chest than like on the left of it, but I still think the positioning of it is interesting. The magic, which I'm assuming is her ice magic, originating from the glowing core of her staff, which lines up with the figure's chest, makes me think her ice powers could be related to the figure. Not the source of her power necessarily, but maybe this is a former mentor? Maybe they're part of the reason why Neve joined the Shadow Dragons. Overall, the shadowy figure, the ominous red moon behind the floating building in the sky, and the way we don't fully see Neve's face due to the way she's facing and the veil covering her eyes, gives this tarot card a mysterious and foreboding look. Probably very fitting for the city of Minrathous. Lucanis, an expert assassin for whom the Antivan Crows are a family business. He is poised and pragmatic, but lacks social skills. We first met Lucanis in the Tevinter Night story The Wigmaker Job, in which he and his cousin Ilario accepted an anonymous contract on Tevinter's premier wigmaker and Venatori blood mage Ambrose Forfex. When Lucanis and Ilario sneak into the location Ambrose is holding a party and showing off his wigs, Lucanis notices that the veil here is thinner than it should be. The two crows sneak and fight their way to Ambrose's workshop, and there they find out that the wigmaker has been feeding his slaves red lyrium, and that he is using an elven artifact to strengthen the veil to keep demons away. Instead of simply killing Ambrose and fulfilling his contract, Lucanis decides to make him pay for what he's done. He destroys the artifact, allowing demons to pour in and wreak havoc upon Ambrose's party. The demons possess some of Ambrose's guests as well as the wigs and the models wearing them. Lucanis tells Ilario to get the slaves safely out of the mansion so he can go and deal with Ambrose. When Ambrose realizes blood magic isn't enough to defeat Lucanis, he starts consuming the red lyrium-infused hair from the wigs and turns into a horrific arachnid-like abomination. It's a tough fight, but Lucanis ultimately manages to defeat Ambrose, though not without some injuries. With Ambrose dead, the other abominations disappear as well. Lucanis then meets his cousin at an inn, and the two head home. After the wigmaker job, Lucanis is nicknamed the Demon by one of Ambrose's Venatori associates, Zara Renata, who then decides to lay low and observe Lucanis in order to discover his weaknesses. In a separate short story, The Wake, on the Dragon Age website, we learn that Lucanis has seemingly died. Fellow crew members Viago and Thedas set up a wake for him, and his cousin Ilario mourns him while being drunk and telling Viago and Thedas about their childhood memories. So Lucanis Dellamorte is a human rogue and master assassin that likes coffee. He is not only part of the Antivan Crows, but he is also the grandson of the first Talon of the Antivan Crows, Catarina Dellamorte. It is said that he is Catarina's favorite, and that she intends to name him as her heir, though Lucanis has no interest in becoming the first Talon. We now know that Lucanis isn't actually dead, so that means he probably either faked his death or was gravely wounded and recovered but didn't let the rest of the crows know that he survived. It could be that he did this to avoid being named heir or to get away from the crows altogether. So it seems Lucanis has some sort of connection to magic, or the Fade. In the Wigmaker job, we learn that anytime something taps into the Fade, he feels an itch at the back of his eyes. On top of that, in the reveal trailer, Lucanis is shown to have purple glowing wings when he is fighting. I have a few theories for that, but in order to talk about those, we need to take a look at his tarot card. So let's do that. So Lucanis' tarot card is probably my favorite, and that's totally not because of all the purple and the fact that I really like Lucanis. Not at all. Okay, maybe a little bit. But one of the main reasons this one's my favorite is because of all the surrealistic elements it has, and how that might be related to this strange connection to magic. The way his daggers and part of his hood mix with the other colors and melt away into the background, and how what's supposed to be his right hand on the left side for us is like twisting around his dagger while the dagger itself seems to be like part of his arm, like there's a dagger where a hand should be. These elements kind of remind me of some Salvador Dali paintings. Most importantly though, these weird little details are exactly the sort of thing you could see in the Fade. The colors, the purple glow in his eyes, the surrealistic, dreamlike shapes in this piece all kind of hint that there is something strange going on with Lucanis, and that it is likely magic related. We know he's not a mage, but Bellara, for example, is a mage, and she has a magical bow. Perhaps Lucanis is a similar case where he is a rogue, but his specialization is some sort of magical ability that allows him to grow wings. When I talked about the reveal trailer a few weeks ago, I speculated that the small purple vials Lucanis has might be related to this. I also said that they might just be some vials for poison, but looking at his tarot card, here they are again. And not only is he carrying them in a different spot where we can see them, but they are also a bright purple, so they stand out against a dark, less saturated background. This makes me think that the vials do at least have some significance. Something else I really want to bring up is the purple glowing eyes in the background. While they kind of remind me of peacock feathers, they also remind me of the eyes of a pride demon. I mean, look at this. Come on now, those are pride demon eyes. Which leads me to the theory that Lucanis might have some sort of connection to a pride demon. Apart from the fact that he is nicknamed the Demon, the prominent color in this tarot card is purple. Pride demons are purple. He has glowing purple wings that are seemingly magical, and the texture on his pauldrons in the reveal trailer have the same eye pattern. Look, I'm not saying he is possessed or anything, but with the veil being a bit unstable, anything's possible, I guess? Hell, it could even be an Anders Justice and Win Faith situation, where the person and spirit are sort of merged into one, which allows the person to use the spirit's power during a fight. And I know I talked about pride demons, but it doesn't even have to be a demon. The spirit of memory from Dragon Age Absolution has very similar looking eyes. The last thing I wanted to point out is that there are a lot of feathers hidden in this piece. The background pattern is made up of feathers and birds. There's crow feathers at the bottom and inside of his cloak, and his sheathed daggers, his hood, and coat all have a feather texture. Which is cool because, you know, he's an Antivan crow. Plus he's got a tiny bird skull in his coat there. Nothing else to say about that really, I just think that's neat. Bellara, a veil jumper obsessed with uncovering the secrets of ancient Elvenon. Bellara is focused, creative, and romantic. So Bellara Lutara is an elf, part of the veil jumpers, and maybe also Dalish. She is a completely new character and has not appeared in any other media so far. A lot of us first thought Bellara a rogue since she was first seen wielding a bow, but it turns out that she is actually a mage, and the bow she wields is actually her gauntlet. Her gauntlet can be turned into a hunting bow. It was discovered by the Veiljumpers and originally created to make manipulating magic easier. And here I am reminded of a piece of concept art that was shared with us a few years ago. The piece I'm talking about shows us a masked character, seemingly female, wielding a bow that looks kinda similar to Bellara's gauntlet bow. Biggest difference is though the character in the concept art isn't wearing a special gauntlet like Bellara, and the arrow they're holding is more magic than arrow, while Bellara is seen using actual arrows. Which could mean that this was originally concept art for Bellara, but they ended up changing some things. Or, since we can't see the character's face, maybe this is actually meant to be a Veiljumper look. At the end of the day though, this is just concept art, and it might not mean much, but I just wanted to point it out. As a Veiljumper, Bellara often travels to ancient elven ruins to search and recover ancient artifacts. One of such artifacts is the Crucius Stone. We don't really know what the Crucius Stone is exactly, and the first and only mention of it is in the Missing comic, and we only know that it has the power to bring down Tevinter, and that both Solus and the Veiljumpers were looking for it. While Bellara wasn't among the group that was looking for the Crucius Stone in the comic, she is seen holding a strange-looking artifact in the reveal trailer, which she also drops when she gets dragged back into the Fade Rift. So my guess is that, despite her not being in the Missing, she might have been looking for the artifact as well, but lost it not long after she found it, and that's how Solus got it. Or perhaps he took it from her. About Bellara's tattoos. I think it's safe to say that this is probably Valisline, although I'm still not 100% certain. The devs have said that Dav has characters that have Valisline as well as characters with tattoos from other cultures, and that the tattoos that some of the characters have were designed to fit their personality. So Bellara's tattoos could very well be Valisline despite the design being something we haven't seen before. Having said that though, we don't actually know if Bellara is Dalish. She is an elf with tattoos and part of the Veiljumpers, but not all Veiljumpers are Dalish. It's possible her tattoo represents the Veiljumpers, or maybe it's just unique to her. The design does match her overall style with the combination of the elegant flowy lines and the sharp triangle shapes, as we can also see in the scarf that she's wearing. Anyway, I'm rambling. So I guess my conclusion is it could be a unique style of Valisline, or it could be something else entirely. Her tarot card then. Looking at it, our attention is immediately drawn to the magical gauntlet on her hand thanks to the beautiful composition. Bellara herself, who seems to be mid-Veiljump, is looking at it as well, though what I find interesting is her expression. There are some other shots of Bellara where she can be seen looking at her gauntlet, but in those she looks determined and confident, whereas here she looks surprised? Makes me wonder if maybe at some point something goes wrong with her gauntlet, maybe it malfunctions, or maybe there's something about it that she hasn't quite figured out yet. Now that I think about it, for most of the companion tarot cards, their weapons or specific skill are the prominent element in the piece. Bellara and her gauntlet, Harding and her magic arrow, Lucanis and his daggers, Emmrich's necromancy, Nev's magic and staff, and Davrin's shield and sword. Taash is the odd one out here, but we'll talk about her in a bit. Overall though, I really like Bellara's tarot card. The way she is depicted to be mid-jump, with all the floating elements around her and her magical gauntlet, almost makes it look like she is floating through the veil, and gives the card a bit of a whimsical feel. Not much else to say about Bellara, apart from the Veiljumper's potential connection to the Executors with the triangle symbols and stuff, but that's something I probably should have mentioned in my factions video and totally forgot. But yeah, Bellara looks great, love her design, she's wearing a scarf, I think scarves are great, and her outfit is full of cool shinies and trinkets. Don't know what it is about scarves and outfits with trinkets, but I just like that a lot. Emmrich, a necromancer of Navarra's Mornwatch. This well-meaning scholar comes complete with a skeletal assistant, Manfred. We are first introduced to Emmrich through the Tevinter Night story Down Among the Dead Men, and he also makes an appearance in the separate short story The Flame Eternal. In Down Among the Dead Men, Emmrich is tasked with putting a distressed spirit to rest after a premature possession during a funeral. He locates the body of the possessed lord and sends Audric, a Navarran city guardsman who was present during the spirit's attack at the funeral, and fellow Mornwatcher Myrna to send the spirit away. During the investigation, however, Audric realizes that he is not actually the real Audric, but a spirit possessing his body. The real Audric was killed during the attack at the funeral. After successfully putting the spirit to rest, Audric and Myrna return to Emmrich, where it is decided that Audric will stay with the Mournwatch as a librarian. In the Flame Eternal, which takes place in 922 Dragon, Emmrich and fellow Mournwatcher Johanna put a spirit to rest by reuniting him with the remains of his wife. Johanna then notes that Emmrich is very talented, and that he has honed his command of sub-astral manifestation. So Emmrich Volkarin is a human mage specialized in necromancy, and has been part of the Mournwatch for at least 30 years. From some of the articles that were released, we have also learned that his romance is more intimate and sensual as compared to some of the others. That's about all we know of Emmrich so far. So let's take a look at his tarot card. So his tarot card shows him using necromancy, raising his skeletal buddy Manfred specifically. Or at least that's what I'm getting from this. While the green of the necromancy magic covers the entire skeleton, Emmrich seems to be sprinkling the magic into the gems in Manfred's goggles. So I wonder if they might be more than just a neat accessory. Perhaps there's some sort of focus. You might remember me talking that I originally theorized that there might be something wrong with Emmrich's hand, since it looked discolored and bloated. Well, this is the piece that clearly shows that he is actually wearing a glove. Though I can't help but wonder in the back of my mind, why only one glove? Like, is this part of his design or is this intentional? Is it practical because that is the hand that he mostly holds his staff with? Interestingly, he doesn't seem to be wearing it in the image for the Flame Eternal, so maybe something has happened somewhere in those 30 years and he's wearing it to keep something covered? I don't know, I'm just tinfoiling here. Apart from that, I like his fancy, almost steampunk-like outfit. And then there's the two skeletons at either side of him who seem to be... I'm not sure what they're doing actually, but I like to imagine they're dancing. I'm sorry I don't have much more to say on Emmrich's card apart from I just think it looks really cool. Davrin. Bold and charming, this Grey Warden has made a name for himself as a monster hunter. Now, he cares for a young griffin. Davrin is another new companion that hasn't appeared anywhere else before. He is a Dalish elf warrior and part of the Grey Wardens. I already talked about this before, but I do again want to bring up that I think it's really cool to see a Dalish elf as a Grey Warden, and that I'm really curious about how he ended up there and what happened to his clan. Actually, I want to talk about something that caught my attention recently, and I have no idea if this is actually important, but I've been replaying Inquisition and I recently completed most of the Storm Coast. And during the quest of Wardens of the Coast, you find a bunch of codex entries from a Grey Warden journal. The codex entry talks about an elven Grey Warden who turns out to be Dalish. So, I'm not saying there's a connection there, it might very well just be a coincidence, but I will admit it's fun to theorize this could be Davrin. Now, in the codex entry, it said that the Elven Warden commanded the rest of their group, which means they're likely a senior warden. I don't think we know what Davrin's specific rank is, we just know he's a Grey Warden. We also don't know yet where he's from or how old he is or how long he's been a warden for, so I guess it's not impossible, but probably not likely. It's just something I wanted to point out anyway. So Davrin is accompanied by his loyal griffin Asan, which means arrow in Elven. Whether Asan is from the original clutch that Valia found in the last flight or from a second clutch, we don't know for sure. I'm personally leaning more towards a second clutch, but we don't know what Bioware decides to do with the timeline. They could have changed something in the lore for griffins, and we honestly don't really know that much about griffins yet. Also, this is a topic for another time. Onto the tarot card then. Something that tends to grab my attention first in this one is his shield. It's a very cool looking griffin shield that seems to be glowing. Not sure if the glow around it was a choice the artist made to make it look cool, but what stands out to me is that the eyes of the griffin depicted on the shield are glowing as well. Maybe it's some sort of magical protection aura? Again, with the veil being in the state that it is, who knows what's possible. Davrin's eyes in Valicene appear to be glowing as well, or at least they are a different color than normal. Again, not sure if this was a style choice or if it means something else. I can imagine the artist gave the Valicene a lighter color to make it stand out more. On the topic of Valicene, I think this one very likely resembles Gilanon. As for the reasons, well, apart from the shape being similar to the one we have for Gil in Inquisition, there's a few other things, but to mention those, I need to talk about something that some might consider spoiler territory. Since I do want to talk about it, I will mark this specific section of the video as a spoiler in the chapter markers, and you can use the markers to skip past it if you don't want to hear it. Alright, so for those of you that are still here, The reason I think that this is likely Gillenon's Valacine is because the Evanuras emerging from the Tear in the Veil in the gameplay reveal have been revealed to be Gillenon and Elgardon. Yes, I still need to do my breakdown of the gameplay reveal. I will get to it, eventually, hopefully. Gillenon, goddess of guides and navigation, also called a mother of the Hala. Gillenon, who was raised to a godly rank for her devotion to animals. Gillenon, who created giants, monsters, and beasts that spanned across the sky, water, and earth. Yeah, so Gillenon cared for animals. Davrin cares for an animal. Gillenon created monsters, and Davrin is a monster hunter. I just love the irony of that, especially since the elven gods turned out to be very real, which means Gil's monsters are probably also very real, at least the ones that are still alive. So how funny would it be that a Dalish elf, who used to or perhaps still worships Gil, and is also a monster hunter, finds out that she is real and did some very messed up things and now probably gets to hunt the very monsters that she made. And don't even get me started on Horror of Hormak. So, Horror of Hormak is another one of the Tevinter Night stories, and I'm not going to go into the details of the story right now, but the most important thing to know is that we find out that there is an ancient elven ruin in the old dwarven Thaig Hormak. The ruin contains a peculiar type of green-yellow lyrium and a pool filled with a strange liquid that transforms anything that touches it into monstrous hybrid creatures. And a quote from the story is, "She cannot have it, not again." I'm sorry, but this has Gillenon written all over it, if you ask me. Also, the story is told from the perspective of a Great Warden, so that's another connection to Davrin. I really hope we get to explore one of these horror thaigs in Veilguard, of which there are 11 more, by the way, so that's gonna be interesting. Back to the tarot card, I absolutely love that Asan looks like a bow with a knocked arrow. Overall, the card gives off a very heroic feel, with Davrin looking ready to jump into battle with a bright rising sun behind him and Asan flying with him in a fading starry night sky. Taash, a dragon hunter allied with the Lords of Fortune. Taash lives for adventure and doesn't mind taking risks. So Taash is a Kunari warrior, and also the companion we probably have the least information on right now. So this section is not going to be super long. We do know that Taash is a dragon hunter and that she is part of the Lords of Fortune. In the reveal trailer, she can be seen dual-wielding 2 axes. Now, there was some confusion around this as warriors are not able to dual-wield in Dav. That is something only rogues can do. Taash is the exception to this rule though. She is a warrior, and dual-wielding is likely part of her unique character abilities. Alright, time to look at her tarot card. So one thing I love about Taash's design is the Emerald Horn. It's something we haven't seen before, and it's honestly very fitting for a Lord of Fortune to replace the horn that she lost while hunting dragons with something shiny. So something that immediately stood out to me was the red lines surrounding her. They kinda look like chains or ropes that have been snapped in some places, though I also think they kinda look like snakes. Thinking about what this could mean, well, the rope is part of her outfit, as you can see in both the reveal trailer and on her tarot card. So it could just be something that was added to make the card look more interesting, but I also think this could mean that Taash is somehow tied to something. Not literally, of course, but maybe there's something in her past that she can't let go of, or feels like she is still tied to. Maybe her character arc is about learning how to break free from whatever is holding her back. Again though, just speculating here. What I also find interesting is that the light is coming from behind her, which causes a shadow to fall over her face and the front of her body. I'm not sure what that means exactly, but I wanted to point it out since I think it was done on purpose, and not just because it looks cool. Similar to Neve's card, I think the lighting makes this piece look a little ominous, despite the brighter colors. It also makes Taash look more intimidating. Maybe that was just the point of the lighting. She is a warrior after all. But I'd like to think that there is a deeper meaning behind it. Also, I am aware there are multiple versions of some of the tarot cards, though the differences are very minor. For Taash, there is a version where there are no coins in the background, and there is what seems to be a dragon eye in the corner there. But they changed that in the updated version on the Dragon Age website. So now it still kinda looks like an eye, but it's not as obvious as it was. Alright, that's everything we know about the Dragon Age Veilguard companion so far. I know I still have to make my breakdown of the gameplay reveal as well as the news articles, so I'm gonna try to work on that before any other news releases, but I just wanted to release the factions and companions videos first because I just really felt like diving into that. I also want to get back to my lore videos, preferably before Dav's release, but yeah, we'll see how far I get. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, let me know by liking this video. Or leave a comment and let me know who your favorite companion is so far. Who do you think your rook will get along with? Who are you going to romance? If you enjoyed this type of content, make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a single one of my videos, as there is a lot more to come in the months leading up to Veilguard's release and afterwards. If you want to support the channel, check out my Patreon, or join my Discord server and let's continue talking about our soon-to-be companions there. That's it for now though, thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one.